That is where so many people lose themselves, not because love is weak, but because desperation blinds them. When you feel someone pulling away, ignoring you, or giving you the bare minimum, your instinct screams, try harder, prove yourself, hold on. But that instinct is a trap. It's a trap that convinces you that the only way to be loved is to shrink, to soften, to silence your needs so you can keep their interest. But real love doesn't grow where self-respect dies. You must understand something brutally simple. If someone truly values you, you will never have to beg for their time, their respect, or their attention. People make time for what matters. They show up for what they want. They invest in what they consider meaningful. And if they are not investing in you, it's not because you are unworthy. It's because you are misplacing your effort. There is a power inside you that many forget. The power of walking away from anything that demands the sacrifice of your dignity. Begging doesn't make them stay. It only makes them see they can take more from you without giving anything back. When you beg, you teach them how low the price of your presence is. When you beg, you signal that your self-worth is negotiable, and the moment you make your value negotiable, someone will always try to reduce it. Respect is not earned by pleading. Attention is not kept by clinging. Love is not secured by proving yourself. These things come naturally when you stand firm in who you are, but that requires discipline, the discipline to let someone experience the consequences of their indifference, the discipline to walk away even when your heart wants to stay, the discipline to protect your peace even when your emotions want chaos. In relationships, people don't fall for you because you chase them. They fall for you because you don't abandon yourself. The most attractive person in any room is the one who needs nothing from the room to validate them. They show up whole. They show up grounded. They show up with a spine strong enough to say, if you can't meet me, then I won't lower myself to stay with you. Do not mistake love with dependency. Do not mistake attachment with connection. Do not mistake tolerance with loyalty. Many people stay in situations that drain them because they fear the silence that comes after leaving. But that silence is not your enemy. That silence is where you rebuild yourself. That silence is where clarity lives. You cannot hear truth while drowning in noise. Someone who truly loves you will not let your heart starve. They won't feed you crumbs and call it affection. They won't give you occasional attention and expect devotion in return. That is not love. That is convenience. That is ego. That is a person using you to fill the gaps in their life without offering the stability you deserve. You were not created to beg for the basics. You were not created to chase someone who barely looks back. You were not created to lower your standards so someone can feel comfortable staying. What you're seeking: respect, consistency, loyalty, effort. These are not luxuries. These are requirements. And anyone who cannot offer them simply does not meet the minimum standard of being in your life. Your strength is measured not by your ability to endure disrespect, but by your willingness to refuse it. The strongest people are not the ones who fight hardest to keep love. They are the ones who have the courage to walk away from the wrong kind of love. They understand that peace is better than attention, dignity is better than affection, and self-respect is better than temporary validation. So listen carefully. Stop begging. Stop explaining your worth. Stop trying to convince someone to treat you better. You cannot inspire effort in someone who is comfortable giving you the bare minimum. You cannot educate someone into valuing you. You cannot fix someone's lack of intention with your loyalty. Love does not grow through pressure. It grows through presence, commitment, and mutual desire. Stand up. Hold your standards with both hands. Let silence speak louder than your pleading ever could. When you choose yourself, the wrong people will fall away, but the right ones will rise to meet you. You don't lose anything by respecting yourself. You only lose what was never real to begin with. Never beg love. Never beg respect. Never beg attention. Become the person who knows their value so deeply that anything less simply cannot stay. And when you live like that, you don't chase love. Love finds you. If you have to beg for love, it's already proof that the relationship is unbalanced, and unbalanced love always collapses. That single truth explains more broken hearts than betrayal ever could, because love does not die loudly at first. It decays quietly through imbalance. One person begins carrying the weight of two. One person starts explaining, waiting, justifying, hoping, and the other grows comfortable receiving without giving. That is not romance. That is erosion. The moment you feel the need to beg for love, you are no longer in a relationship. You are in a negotiation where your worth is being discounted. Begging never restores balance. It destroys it further. When you plead for affection, you are not inspiring connection. You are confirming scarcity. You are announcing, without words, that you believe love must be extracted rather than shared. And once that belief enters the relationship, everything shifts. respect weakens, desire fades, the dynamic tilts. One stands upright, the other kneels. No partnership survives that posture for long. Healthy love is mutual pressure toward growth, not one-sided effort to prevent loss. When love is balanced, you don't have to chase clarity, consistency, or care. They exist naturally. Communication flows. Effort is visible. Presence is stable. But when imbalance appears, anxiety replaces peace. You start monitoring tone, timing, responses. You shrink yourself to avoid conflict. You overextend to keep someone from leaving. And slowly, you disappear. This is the danger most people refuse to name. Unbalanced love doesn't just hurt you, it reshapes you. It trains you to tolerate neglect. It convinces you that wanting more is too much. It teaches you to confuse endurance with loyalty. Over time, you stop asking whether the relationship is good for you and start asking only how to keep it alive. That is how collapse begins, not with a breakup, but with self-abandonment. Love that requires begging is not fragile by accident. It is weak by structure. It is built on fear rather than choice. One person stays because they are afraid to lose. The other stays because they are comfortable being needed. And comfort without responsibility breeds entitlement. The more you beg, the less effort is required. The less effort is required, the less value is assigned. This is not cruelty, it is human psychology. You cannot restore balance by giving more when the other gives less. That is like trying to level a sinking ship by pouring in water. Balance returns only when both people carry equal responsibility for care, communication, and commitment. And if someone refuses that responsibility, no amount of love from you will compensate for their absence. Love is not sustained by intensity, it is sustained by reciprocity. There is a painful clarity that arrives when you stop begging. You realize that what you were fighting for was not love, but validation. You wanted proof that you mattered. You wanted reassurance that your effort wasn't wasted. But real love never asks you to audition for significance. You don't perform for it, you don't chase it. You don't plead for it. It meets you where you stand. The collapse of unbalanced love is inevitable because it violates a fundamental law. What is not mutually maintained cannot endure. Resentment grows in the giver. Indifference grows in the receiver. Communication turns into confrontation or silence. And eventually one person leaves emotionally long before they leave physically. By the time the relationship ends, it has already been dead for a long time. The strength you need is not the strength to hold on, it is the strength to step back and see the truth. If love were truly present, you wouldn't feel anxious about asking for basic care. You wouldn't feel foolish for wanting consistency. You wouldn't feel small for expressing needs. Love does not punish honesty. Love does not withhold as leverage. Love does not require you to beg. Walking away from unbalanced love is not failure. It is correction. It is the moment you restore alignment between your values and your actions. It is when you stop trading dignity for proximity. When you refuse to beg, you are not choosing loneliness, you are choosing order. You are choosing self-respect over emotional chaos. You are choosing long-term peace over short-term relief. Unbalanced love always collapses because it is built on inequality. And inequality breeds instability. The only relationships that survive those where effort is freely given, respect is mutual, and love is a shared responsibility, not a favor granted to the one who begs the hardest. If you have to beg for love, that is not a challenge to overcome, that is a signal to leave. Self-respect is the foundation of attraction. The moment you abandon it, you abandon your power. Attraction does not begin with charm, appearance, or persuasion. It begins with posture, psychological posture, the way you stand in your own life, the way you treat your boundaries, the way you respond when something costs you your dignity. The moment you tolerate what diminishes you, something essential shifts. You may still be present, still smiling, still trying, but your power has quietly left the room. Self-respect is not loud. It does not announce itself. It is felt. It is felt in the calm refusal to chase what runs, in the steady voice that does not beg to be heard, in the choice to walk away from what erodes you even when staying would be easier. People are not drawn to desperation even when they benefit from it. They may accept it, use it, exploit it, but they do not respect it. And without respect, attraction cannot survive. When you abandon self-respect, you don't lose others first, you lose yourself. You start negotiating your standards. You explain away behavior that once would have been unacceptable. You silence your intuition because it threatens the connection you're afraid to lose. This is how power drains out of a person, not through one large compromise, but through many small betrayals of the self. Attraction is sustained by strength, not performance. You do not become desirable by proving your worth repeatedly. You become desirable by knowing it so deeply that you refuse to perform for approval. Confidence is not arrogance, it is alignment. It is when your actions match your values, even under pressure. Especially under pressure. The most compelling presence in any relationship is the person who does not need to convince anyone of their value. They show up whole. They are open, but not porous. They care, but they do not cling. They invest, but they do not overextend. This balance is magnetic because it signals abundance of self-worth, abundance of choice, abundance of direction. When self-respect disappears, attraction follows. The dynamic changes. Effort becomes one-sided. Desire turns into obligation. Interest turns into tolerance. The other person may stay, but not because they are drawn to you, because you have made it easy. Easy is not attractive. Easy is forgettable. Easy invites neglect. Power in relationships comes from the ability to say no without anger, to leave without drama, to stand still while others test your limits. It comes from knowing that loneliness is less damaging than self-betrayal. Many people remain stuck because they confuse intensity with meaning. But intensity without respect is chaos. It burns hot and dies fast. Self-respect is what allows attraction to breathe. It sets the boundaries within which desire can grow. Without boundaries, there is no tension. Without tension, there is no pull. When you give everything without conditions, you remove the very structure that makes connection valuable. Value requires cost. Respect requires limits. This does not mean becoming cold or detached. It means becoming grounded. It means refusing to trade your peace for attention. It means understanding that someone who truly wants you will rise to meet your standards, not resent them. Standards do not scare the right people, they filter out the wrong ones. The moment you stop abandoning yourself, something powerful happens. You stop chasing validation. You stop over-explaining. You stop accepting inconsistency as normal. And in that stillness, your presence changes. People feel it. They may not be able to name it, but they respond to it. Because power is not asserted, it is recognized. Attraction, rooted in self-respect, lasts because it is stable. It does not require manipulation or fear. It does not rely on scarcity or urgency. It is built on mutual choice. Two people standing upright, choosing each other freely, not because one is afraid to lose and the other is afraid to be alone. If you want to be attractive, do not ask how to please others more. Ask where you have been abandoning yourself. Look at where you say yes when you mean no. Look at where you stay silent to keep the peace. Look at where you tolerate what costs you your dignity. That is where your power leaked out. The moment you reclaim self-respect, you reclaim attraction. Because power returns when you stop negotiating your worth. And once you have your power, you no longer chase connection, you allow it to meet you at your level. The difference between these two forms of attention is the difference between connection and control. Genuine attention flows without force. It arrives naturally, without reminders, without pressure, without emotional bargaining. You don't have to chase it, question it, or decode it. It is consistent because it is chosen. But the moment attention must be pulled, demanded, or begged for, the relationship has already shifted into something unhealthy and often something dishonest. Begging for attention does not create closeness. It creates imbalance. One person becomes the seeker, the other the gatekeeper. One waits, the other decides. This dynamic erodes equality. And without equality, intimacy collapses. Attention that is extracted under pressure is not a gift, it is a transaction. And transactions always come with hidden costs. Resentment for the giver and insecurity for the receiver. When you beg for attention, you are not asking to be seen. You are asking to be spared from neglect. That distinction matters. Genuine attention is proactive. It anticipates. It shows up without being asked. Manipulated attention is reactive. It appears only after discomfort, guilt, or threat of loss. Over time, this trains both people into damaging roles. One learns to withhold, the other learns to plead. This is where manipulation quietly enters. Not always from malice, but from weakness. The person withholding attention learns that silence creates power. The person begging learns that emotional intensity is the price of being noticed. Neither is acting from authenticity. Both are responding to fear of abandonment on one side, fear of responsibility on the other. Real attention is rooted in desire, not obligation. It is sustained by interest, not pressure. When someone wants you, they don't need to be reminded of your existence. They don't forget you until you protest. They don't require emotional displays to re-engage. Attention that vanishes unless demanded is not love, it is convenience. The tragedy is that many people mistake this pattern for passion. They confuse anxiety with excitement. The highs feel intense because they follow emotional deprivation. But intensity born from scarcity is unstable. It keeps you addicted to moments rather than grounded in consistency. And consistency, not drama, is the true marker of care. Begging for attention slowly distorts your self-image. You begin to believe that being seen requires effort beyond simply being yourself. You overthink messages, you monitor responses, you replay conversations. This mental exhaustion is not the price of love, it is the symptom of imbalance. Genuine attention brings calm, not chaos. The moment you stop begging, the truth becomes visible. Either the attention returns freely, or it doesn't. And that outcome is information. If it returns, the connection had potential but needed correction. If it doesn't, then what you were holding on to was never real. Either way, you gain clarity. Begging delays clarity, silence reveals it. There is strength in allowing people to show you who they are without interference. When you stop chasing attention, you remove the mask. Those who care will step forward. Those who were benefiting from your pursuit will fade. This is not loss, it is filtration. It is how you protect your emotional resources from being wasted. Healthy relationships do not require emotional labor just to be noticed. They are not sustained by reminders or ultimatums. They are built on mutual curiosity, mutual effort, and mutual presence. Attention that must be extracted is not only unstable, it is corrosive. It poisons respect on both sides. Choosing not to beg is an act of self-respect. It is the decision to stop participating in a dynamic that trains you to manipulate emotions for connection. You don't need to perform distress to be valued. You don't need to threaten withdrawal to be remembered. You don't need to lower yourself to be seen. Attention freely given is calm, consistent, and clean. It does not leave you questioning your worth. It does not arrive only after pain. It does not require you to abandon your dignity. Anything else is not attention, it is leverage. And the moment you refuse to beg, you reclaim your power, because you stop asking to be chosen and start choosing yourself. You don't get love by convincing someone, you get it by becoming someone who refuses to negotiate their value. The need to convince is always a warning sign. The moment you feel you must explain, justify, or prove why you deserve care, something fundamental has already gone wrong. Love that requires persuasion is not love. It is a debate where your worth is on trial, and no one ever feels secure in a relationship where they must keep winning their own case. Convincing comes from fear, fear of being replaced, fear of being abandoned, fear of being seen as insufficient. That fear drives people to overextend themselves. They give more time, more attention, more patience than is healthy. They shrink their needs to appear agreeable. They tolerate inconsistency because they believe effort will eventually earn commitment. But effort does not create desire, and self-sacrifice does not generate respect. Refusing to negotiate your value is not arrogance. It is alignment. It is knowing what you bring and standing still in that knowledge. When your value is clear to you, you stop chasing approval. You stop selling yourself. You stop auditioning for a role in someone else's life. You show up as you are, and you allow others to decide whether they can meet you there. Attraction does not respond to pressure. It responds to presence. A person who knows their worth moves differently. They listen more than they plead. They observe more than they argue. They let actions speak because they understand that interest cannot be argued into existence. Either it's there or it isn't, and no speech will manufacture it. When you negotiate your value, you teach others how to treat you. Every time you accept less than you deserve, you lower the standard of engagement. Every time you stay where you are not valued, you normalize neglect. This is how people become trapped in cycles of emotional exhaustion, trying to be enough for someone who never intended to give them more. Love grows where there is choice, not coercion. When someone chooses you freely, there is no need to persuade. Their actions are consistent. Their effort is visible. Their presence is steady. But when love is conditional on convincing, it becomes unstable. You are loved only as long as you perform, comply, or overcompensate. That is not intimacy, that is conditional tolerance. Refusing to negotiate your value requires discipline. It means accepting the discomfort of walking away from potential rather than clinging to false hope. It means allowing silence instead of chasing reassurance. It means choosing temporary loneliness over permanent self-doubt. This is not easy, but it is necessary, because nothing drains a person faster than living in a state of emotional audition. When you stop convincing, something powerful happens. Clarity. People either rise to meet your standard, or they remove themselves. Both outcomes are victories. One leads to genuine connection. The other frees you from a dynamic that would have slowly eroded your confidence. Loss is painful, but losing yourself is far worse. True love does not require you to be smaller, quieter, or more accommodating than you naturally are. It does not punish honesty or boundaries. It does not demand that you constantly prove your usefulness. Love recognizes value, it does not negotiate it. And recognition can only happen when you stand firm enough to be seen clearly. Many people fear that refusing to negotiate their value will make them too much or unlovable. The truth is the opposite. It filters out those who were never capable of loving you well. The right people are not intimidated by standards, they are drawn to them. Standards create structure. Structure creates safety. Safety creates intimacy. Convincing keeps you stuck in your head. Refusing to negotiate grounds you in reality. You stop asking, how do I make them love me? And start asking, is this the kind of love I want? That shift changes everything. You move from scarcity to choice, from anxiety to authority, from dependency to mutual desire. You don't get love by convincing someone. You get love by becoming someone who knows their value so deeply that they no longer argue for it. And when you live from that place, love doesn't need to be chased, it meets you where you stand.